Oh my goodness, do I have an exciting episode for you. I've got 5 plants that are doing the most in my collection at the moment. They are absolutely loving this growing season. Honestly, there are a lot more plants that I could show you, but I'm going to wait a little while before they develop just a little bit more before showing you them in all their glory and all of their splendor. But this list is going to be my top 5 plants for the month of May. Are you ready? I don't know, but let's start big or go home, as they say. Ladies and gentlemen, people of the internet, let me introduce you to the newest leaf on my Anthurium VEITCHII, my king Anthurium. I don't know if the camera's picking up the scale of this leaf, and it's still quite young. It's still probably got a couple more centimeters to go, maybe 1 or so. But look at this. So let's look at, this was the previous champion leaf over here, and now this is the new king on the block. Oh my goodness, this thing is just a monster. I'm trying to just give you the scale of this. Let me put my head next to it. Look at that. It's about 2 heads worth of leaf in this. How crazy, how absolutely immense. This plant is becoming just a beast, and I love it. I absolutely love it. What you can't see is just back here, there's another new leaf emerging. It's definitely not going to be as big as this one because the stem has, I believe, has stopped just here. So that gives me an indication that we're probably looking at a leaf maybe around this sort of size. I mean, it's pretty close to the newest leaf here, so it's not too far, a million miles away. So I think this plant is just gonna continue to throw out just giant leaves from here on out. The only thing I'm waiting for this plant to do is to produce me an inflorescence. Because if you guys know me and you've seen this channel before, boy, do I love to pollinate anthuriums, and do I love to hybridize them as well. So potentially I can get a bit of a Anthurium magnificum cross regale cross with the VEITCHII, or throw on some forgetii pollen on this bad boy and see what we get out of it. Oh my days, this plant is just, it's everything right now. It's everything right now. Look at it. Oh my days. The only problem I have with this plant is the fact that it's certainly a sprawler. So if you were to just let it grow wild, the leaves would spread out wide and go as far as they can. So I do my best to try to contain the plant just so that I can preserve some of the space that is really lacking here, because vertical space is the only way I can go. I can't go any wider because I'm trying to, you know, add more plants to the collection, and if this is spreading and taking up the space of 2 or 3 plants, then that makes it really, really difficult. But this is it. This is the Anthurium VEITCHII, the king Anthurium, and I'm going to leave you with this final leaf just here, the very first plant on this list of favorites in May. Oh my goodness. After a long winter dormancy, my Stephania Nova has finally awakened. Look at that. Oh my goodness. I love this plant. It's just so delicate is what I really like about it. The leaves are rather thin, kind of, I wouldn't call it papery thin. I would call it sort of a napkin thinness. So it's quite light and delicate. Like, you want to be really careful with these leaves, but boy, do they grow to giant sizes. This isn't the largest that I've seen this plant grow its leaves out to be. They do get about double the size, so probably about out here, but these are still just the first few leaves that are emerging. If you look under here, there are lots of other buds that are about to open up, so hopefully we get some bigger, better, larger leaves come out of this plant very, very soon. Today I decided to pull the plant out of the pot slightly, or out of this cash pot over here, and you can see we have quite a lot of roots that are coming out from the bottom, and that is a really good sign, and that just sort of tells me that I may need to look at repotting this plant quite soon. I've only ever seen these plants grow in quite tight contained pots, just because they do tend to be quite slow growing in terms of the caudex at the bottom here, so they don't need a massive pot. But if the plant is telling me, by showing me the roots that it's got coming out of the pot here, I should probably listen to that and try to get a slightly bigger pot, or maybe I don't know. I need to be careful about that because I would hate to do anything to make this plant decline and go backwards. But yeah, the Stephania Nova, a really gorgeous plant. I think I do need to put it in a nicer pot. I need to show this plant a little bit of respect and give it a really nice pot to really show off its beautiful caudex. Just look at that. It's so rugged yet just delicate and beautiful when you contrast it to these amazing leaves that it produces. The Stephania Nova, certainly a plant I would recommend. However, before I go any further, I would say that you need to be careful where you're sourcing these plants from. These plants are notorious for being poached out of their natural habitats, so make sure that you're going to a reputable seller when you're looking at the Stephania. Any type of Stephania, when they're quite large, they tend to be taken directly from their sort of natural habitat, so keep that in mind. That is something that I didn't know when I first bought this plant, so I should have done a bit more research. So if you are interested in this plant, make sure that you're thinking about sustainability to ensure that we don't lose these plants in the wild. So keep that in mind. But if you can find one from a really good, reputable seller, as I said, then go for it. This is the Stephania Nova. Oh my goodness. Let me show you this old Mammillaria cactus. Look at it. Oh my goodness. This plant has never failed. I would say for the past 4 years since I've had it, maybe 5. I've had it quite a while. This plant hasn't failed to produce flowers every single summer. Look at that. Wow. And look, we've got other parts of the plant with, I love this one. This one just looks so cool, so interesting. Oh my days, this plant honestly is a serial bloomer, which is exactly kind of what you want from your cacti, because most of the time your cacti, they are what they are. They look the same. When they grow, they don't look any different. But when you get them flowering like this, especially in this sort of circular cluster, it looks really, really cool, really, really interesting. Just brings something different and unique to my windowsill where I grow so many cacti. It's one of the only ones that really grow. I've had maybe 2 other cacti that have bloomed and they haven't bloomed again since, or this year. But this one, without fail, it blooms. As long as it gets that bright light, it feels that warmth coming, it's gonna throw out some flowers. The only thing I would say about this plant though is that I think the flowers open and close at certain times. I'm not quite sure. So you can see, like for example, this one just here is starting to close up whilst the others are sort of still open, but they're kind of getting ready to close. I reckon that in the evening, in my experience, that these open up a lot more, and that tends to be the case with a lot of cacti anyway. I know cacti like the dragon fruit, they open up at night because there's a particular moth that pollinates them. It might be the similar story with this one. I'm not too sure. But all that being said, this is why it's on this list today, because of these gorgeous bright flowers with that yellow interior just there. Absolutely gorgeous. This is my Mammillaria cactus. The last plant on this list isn't this one, but gosh, does it look, it's quite something. So stay tuned for that. But before we get there, let's talk about this one. This was one of the very few plants that my Anthurium Magnificum cross regale, this Anthurium right here, this massive gigantic plant, this is one of the very few plants that it actually produced. I think I had about 3 plants out of this plant ever. I've tried to pollinate this plant several times, and each time the inflorescence failed bar 1. And on that occasion, I managed to get 3 plants. One of them I've gifted away or sold, and I've kept 2 in my collection. But after, again, a little bit of dormancy, not much happening, this plant is telling me, hey, Lithius, I am ready to grow and I'm ready to show up this summer. Look at that. This plant is sizing up quite nicely. The oldest leaf has fallen off, it's dried up. You can see that here. But yeah, it's done quite a good job in leveling up its leaves. I think it's this one followed by this one. This was the former largest leaf on this plant, and now it's been upgraded by this beautiful one. When it first came in, it had a gorgeous deep red burgundy color, but now that's starting to even out and turn into that sort of that green. You can definitely see the regale resemblance here in sort of that shape, that teardrop kind of shape, as well as those lobes at the top there. So Just absolutely lovely. Wanted to share it with you because it's quite the gem. And the other one is growing a little bit. Should I show you the other one? I think I will. So here's the other one, the sibling. This you can see is growing another leaf, but as I said, it's still very much in its infancy. There's not really much to report, but I mean, it's still an achievement. I'm still glad that this plant is doing well. So this plant, I think, when they started growing, this one was always a little bit ahead. It always had a slightly larger leaf, a bit, you know, faster to develop, but the other one has now actually overtaken it. So that's quite interesting to see. So yeah, my two baby mad rads, my Anthurium magnificum cross regale and its babies. Check that out. So here we are, we've come to the main event, and the plant that I want to show you is this one. Look at that. It was an amazing plant. This is the leaf of my Anthurium peltigerum. This was the largest leaf on the plant for a very long time, and unfortunately we lost it earlier this week. Look at that. It was an incredible leaf, an incredible leaf. I don't even want to throw it away. I might just keep it, find a way to display it somewhere, because it was just so close to my heart, so close. This is it. But let me show you what it looks like now. Although it got rid of one leaf, it gave me this bad boy. Check out the size of this leaf. I always have to do a head comparison, right? Look at that. Again, that's probably a head and a half, maybe 2 heads, because it's so much wider as well. Oh my goodness. It can almost pass as a face mask. And oh, I've just ripped the leaf. Oh no. Oh man. What a shame. I'm too excited and I manhandled my plant, so I need to be a bit more careful. But I still have to celebrate this plant because just check out this leaf. I was a little bit worried when the plant, oh look at that, the old petioles just falling off. I was a little bit too excited again. But I was a bit worried when I saw that the plant leaf started to yellow, and even the other leaf started to yellow as well. You can see around the edges there's a little bit of yellow. I did change the sort of the care that I gave this plant, and I made sure that I kept on top of the watering as well. The leaf that actually fell off, and I'll put it next to this one so you can actually see the difference in the size. Look at that. That's a big, huge step up. And this was the former lead leaf. This was the biggest leaf on the plant and the most recent one. But this one has just sort of come in and said, yeah, I'm going to take over. So much so that you're going to have to go. It got rid of the other leaf. However, I want to show you something as well down here, which is quite exciting. The base of the plant, you see that little bit of green? Yes, yes, that's right. We have another leaf that's coming out. And if this Anthurium follows the same pattern, it means that the leaf is going to be even bigger. And what I like about this plant in particular is that it actually grows quite quickly. So when it starts to put out signs of a new leaf like so, in a matter of weeks, maybe 2 or 3, maybe a month at most, we'll have something very close to this nearing maturity. Still in this plastic cup, and that's just because I haven't changed it, to be fair. This is the cup that I think I bought it in, and it's been here and it's been quite happy, and I'm quite nervous about changing anything that risks making this plant decline. But I think it might be time to look at maybe getting a slightly larger pot so that these leaves can continue to grow. And that could be the reason why I lost that top leaf. I hope the 5th and final plant was exciting to you as it was to me, because this thing honestly is just a beast and a monster. And oh my God, I'm so happy to share it with you guys. So those are my top 5 plants for the month of May, and I challenge you to let me know what your top 5 plants are as well. Let's compare and contrast and see what you've got going on in your collection and what's thriving at the moment. But that's all. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, keep planting.